So this recollection, here and now Dhamma. Also want to remind you about the etiquette of this monastery. When you enter the temple, put your shoes on the shoe racks. We've got very nice shoe racks, beautifully made, specifically to put shoes and sandals on. So that's part of the practice, to come in, into the entrance and slip off the shoes and pick them up and put them on the rack, the shoe racks. Things like this is like Vinaya in a way. It's just training oneself to when you enter, like going through a door, enter a temple. Use it not just as a kind of to get there to sit down and meditate, and you're all kind of rushing from where your kutis and rushing in and just leaving your shoes anywhere and then rushing into the temple, sitting down and then trying to meditate. It's about mindfulness in the four postures: sitting, standing, walking, lying down, entering, leaving, opening doors, shutting doors. So that we're remembering the time, the place, the situation we're in. And so monasteries are like for this, they're not just convenient places that you go to meditate, but it's a way of conducting oneself, reflecting in just the kind of banal, ordinary aspects of entering and leaving, coming in through a door, closing it, or taking off your shoes, putting them on the shoe rack. These seem like picayune or rather petty little things, but it's a way of integrating mindfulness into daily life. At the end of a retreat, always, giving retreat for lay people, they always want to know, how can I, integrate this into my ordinary life? What do I do after I leave the retreat? Should I sit for an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening? And it goes on into, always seeing mindfulness, meditation as a very formal posture, sitting in front of a shrine, watching your breath. But and that's the point of monasticism, isn't it? The Bhikkhu Vinaya of our Vinaya is that it's a way of training oneself to live mindfully, knowing time and place. And we have the precepts, guidelines for behavior, which are to remind us, to help us. They're guidelines. So that's, when you're a samana, then this is part of the time and the place, the situation. I'm not a lay person. I am a samana in this sense. So this identity isn't meant to be seen as sakkaya ditthi, but it's about the way it is when you receive the bappa Chah and the upasampada, and when people train as anagarikas, then this is you're no longer just a lay person, ordinary person, who has their own private life to be responsible for. You're now, say, committing yourself to live within the restraint of precepts. So that's part of the mindfulness, and it's not seen as Sakya Ditti, as another kind of sense of myself as becoming a monk or a nun. It's for mindfulness, reflection. I can no longer just do what I feel like I could when I was a layperson, go where I want to, say what I want to say, following my own, cultural conditioning, personal tendencies, because the robe is always reminding that I'm no longer have that freedom to just follow my impulses or do what I feel like in the moment. So there can be a resentment about that, because sometimes one can feel suffocated like in a straitjacket with the monastic life. Went through several years in early, when I was a newly ordained bhikkhu, just feeling suffocated by the life, by the vinaya, by the kind of conformity, having to do things in a certain way, conforming to prescriptions of behavior and so forth. And this, of course, is oppressive to a personality based on my rights. I can do what I want, say what I want. I'm a free person. So it is, it is when you become a samana, then it is you're giving up those rights. But it can't, that's why you have to ask 3 times, nobody, moral restraint, vinaya, would be a form of tyranny if you were forced to do it out of, holding a gun to your head and making you take the ordination. And then it would be a form of tyranny imposed, imposed upon you against your will. But this is volunteer, and this is voluntary. You ask, and the sense of asking 3 times, so that it's not just, it can be ceremonial, but it also has its point. You're making this statement, affirming this is what you're choosing, and then through that it is the acceptance into the Sangha. Is a Sangha agreement, accepting you too. But then that acceptance implies that you're willing to live under the restraint, discipline, train yourself within the structures of this tradition. Then if you really can't stand it, then the thing is to go somewhere else. Because it's not going to work if you're just resisting and resenting it endlessly. And, there's other options. Now, there's all kinds of alternative possibilities in spiritual communities and different forms of Buddhism and other religions. But also, encouragement is I can't stand it, I'm suffocating. This is the First Noble Truth. Sakya Ditti. And so it's always looking at, one can blame the tradition or the Theravada Buddhism, Thai forest tradition, bhikkhus, all this kind of thing. One can always see that these conventions are the cause of my suffering. But I don't agree with that. That is Sakya Ditti, Silabbata Paramasa Vicikicca. That's the first three fetters. So this is, even though it might seem like that, but it's when you trace it to the suffering and its causes, the first and second noble truths, it's wanting something you don't have, or not wanting things to be the way they are, whether it's your own feelings or the conventions. I don't want Theravada Buddhism to be like this. I want to change it so it's more modern, more in tune with modern values. And so this is what is this? I don't like it the way it is. I want it because it makes me suffer when it's like this. And if we change it, then I won't suffer, is the implication. Well, that's full of Sakaya Ditti, or the ego, the sense of me, my suffering, what I think, what I want, or what I don't want. So that's why the conventional form is to help mindfulness, not to browbeat you into conformity, tyrannize you, and cause you suffering. It's not meant to be, here to bend you to our will, to make you into what we want you to be. But it's how you use it, how wise you can reflect from this particular convention. So during this retreat, you see, that's what I'm trying to do during these morning reflections, is to remind you of the purpose of all this. How to use it so that it's up to you to make it work. Somebody was saying, but it's a dead tradition, it's old, it's we want to make it modern, alive, with it. Swinging Buddhism, jazz it up. Let's get rid of this boring old chanting and have rap. We could there's all kinds of attempts to jazz up traditional forms. Listening to religious programs on the radio, the Church of England's desperate, always talking about how to make C of E more so that the youth really want to go to church. Because I guess the C of E churches, they're all pretty old people. Old ladies going in kind of with their Zimmer frames into the church on Sunday, and nobody, no young people. So how, then they endlessly go on about how to make it modern and swinging and with it, so that the young people will want to come, to be entertained, to have fun, see the joy of church. See of England. There's another, this old conservative party at prayer, is something kind of swinging in the moment. But in doing that, it kind of loses its power. The power of a tradition is that it has something that's managed to survive through, like in this tradition, Theravada, through 2,552 years, something in it has, managed to survive through so many changes from ancient India to modern England. Not because we're trying to make it, jazz it up and make it, bend it to every new fashion and every new kingdom and empire and value system, but because it's based on a universal sense of what is common to humanity in general, like the Four Noble Truths. It's about suffering, not about Asian culture, ancient Indian values. It's we can relate to it just as well here in England as no doubt they did in India at the time of the Buddha. So, this is taking something quite ordinary and common that is not, subtle or esoteric. Suffering is dukkha is the most common experience that every human being has. Whether you're at the top, Queen Elizabeth, or at the bottom, a homeless old man on the streets. Those are maybe the two extremes, at the top and at the bottom. Male or female. Rich or poor, young or old. The dukkha is a common bond we have as human beings. And it's a noble truth. So it's taking this experience, this suffering, and really embracing it, noticing, investigating it. Is it patriarchal forms of old-fashioned religious traditions that cause me to suffer? Because this is what we get accused of being, as patriarchal, as if this was something bad. As if patriarchy, with its very nature, was a form of tyranny and something bad. And that's the modern view of this time, this society, is patriarchy's out. Hierarchy's no good. It's all equality, egalitarian, everybody's equal, human rights. And so these are, this is the culture that we're living in, is based on these ideals. And then the ideals are perfect, freedom, rights, equality. These are, these are the best. But remember that ideals are not alive. They're concepts. But the Buddha's talking about Dhamma, which is not an ideal of how things should be. It's about the way things are. Where ideals are about how everything should be. If it were at its best, if we could arrange our lives, our universe, our society, so it's always at its very best, its peak of the superiority, at the very top, and to be able to sustain that. And idealists, that's why idealists are, tend to be always disappointed, because life is not like that. We're dealing not with the ideals as what we're aiming for, is trying to make the conditioned realm fit into an ideal, but we're awakening in the present to the way it is. So Dhamma, the word Dhamma is not about how things should be when everything is perfect, but it's the way it is. All conditions are impermanent. Sape Sankharani Chah. And that is the way it is. Can you find any condition that is permanent? Is there any condition that sustains itself through time? So this is where the here and now, Paccuppanna Dhamma, is, taking refuge in the Dhamma rather than in my view of how things should be or how I want things to be, or feeling resentful because you don't want things to be the way they are. Now we all have these problems, we all, Sakya Ditti is based on ignorance. You don't develop your personality through wisdom. So it's not, our personalities are developed through learning to survive in the families and social groups we find ourselves in. And we have our karma, our own peculiar karma, individual karma to live with. Sometimes we don't know why. Why do I feel like this, or have these inclinations, or why can't I just be normal, ordinary person like everybody else seems to be? Why do I have to have these eccentric tendencies or strange habits? Why can't we all just get on and be nice to each other in England? We should all love each other and respect each other, no matter of race or gender, sexual inclination, anything. We should all just be nice, tolerant, loving, compassionate, supporting each other. That's how it should be in terms of thinking of an ideal. But this is the way it is, Because I can't, even I'm a person, I can't make myself into that kind of a person. My personality seems to manifest in different forms according to conditions. Even though I'd like to be the ideal bhikkhu, the ideal Buddhist monk, the ideal role model for you all, and always be smiling and kind and understanding and compassionate, wise, patient, caring, and all the rest. Yeah, I find that's the ideal, but then the reality is like this. So that when, it's not, I'm not diminishing ideals. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't have ideals, but recognize that what they are, that if you attach out of ignorance to ideals, you're going to suffer, because life is not going to present itself in that way for you ever. It never has for anyone. Because we are the owners of our karma, heir to our karma, born of our karma, related to our karma, abide supported by our karma. Whatever karma I shall do for good or for ill, of that I will be the heir. So we all have our karma to live with. which is not equal, not the same, not ideal, but it is the way it is. And so this, you recognize the wisdom in this, really sorting it out, the way it is. All conditions are impermanent. It's not saying that conditions, there's something wrong with conditions because they're impermanent. It's just noticing, observing the nature of your own body, of your mental habits, of your emotions. So it's not a put down of ideals or, judging them as you shouldn't have any ideals, principles. But it's an invitation, encouragement to be able to awaken to attachment. Because if, out of Sakya Ditti, no matter how high-minded my ideals are, that's the cause of suffering. Sakya Ditti, Silabbata Paramasa Vicikicca. Being blinded by these conditions. Operating always from some conditioned perspective. The basic one is Sakya Ditti, isn't it? I'm this person, this body. I'm this personality. What I think in my life, my memories. This is, this is what most of the world's population operates from. Was from Sakya Ditti, which is, this illusion that I am limited person, I'm this physical form, this age, I'm this age of this body, I'm the gender of the body, I'm the, the race, the nationality, and then it goes into very personal things about me being good, bad, right, wrong, and on and on. It gets complicated into the sticky web of Sakya Ditti, personality view. So on this retreat, just that which is aware of the personality. This is like Buddha knowing Dhamma, Buddha knowing the Dhamma. Ability to reflect, observe, not criticize the personality, saying that I have a good one or a bad one, but it is like this. Right now, I feel like this. There's this kind of feeling, emotionally. I feel oppressed by the Vinaya. I don't feel I'm truly appreciated, or that I'm being pushed down or humiliated by my junior position, is like this. And so I'm not asking you to change your feelings to conform to an ideal I might have about a good samana. But the encouragement is to awaken to whatever you're feeling, to see it in terms of the way it is, not believe in it anymore, to let it go, to allow it to be what it is, but be the knower of it rather than the owner. This is, to be the knower is Buddha, to be the owner is to become the personality. Believe it, operate from your own personal opinions, views, assumptions, emotions. Now these Four Noble Truths to be investigated. Like this is pure Vipassana. There's the four foundations of mindfulness, Four Noble Truths, the Paticca Samuppada, dependent origination. There's the 10 fetters and the 4 stages. Now these are very skillful tools that, we have in this traditional form here at Amaravati. This is the encouragement, this is the purpose of our life, to use these tools for breaking through ignorance, extirpating avijja. So if we live this life and never extirpate avijja, it's kind of a sad thing. If we're just creating more avijja out of our position in this form, and then you've missed the point. And that's not what I'm teaching. I'm not trying to convince you that to attach to your position, to your to anything, to the tradition itself, or just to surrender kind of passively to conventional forms, resigning yourself in a negative way. It's like taking this on. It's a really, when you enter the Sangha, the Bhampa Chah, the Upasampada, you're giving permission to take this and make it work for you. It's not just, you have to put up with a lot of things you don't like, but, just be patient and we can get into this kind of whinging mindset. We just said, it's an old tradition run by patriarchal monks, and we've got to try to just learn from it and do the best we can, even though it's not exactly fair and the way it should be according to modern values, and then we go on like that. So that's not taking the precepts. It's like, you're given, you ask permission, you ask for permission to enter the Sangha. You're given that permission, and then you're given the right to use the conventions, not for personal identity, but to make them work for you. Conventions are dead. They are conventions. They have no life force in them. It's you yourself that make them work. Not to try to change the conventions to fit the ideas that you have, but to use them for what they're meant to be used for awakened attention. To be free from avijja. To see in that through clarity and wisdom from that, when we say Buddha Dhamma Sangha position, not from me, my personal view and my position as a person in this Sangha. So in this Sangha, this word taking refuge in Sangha, supatipanno, ujupatipanno, yayapatipanno, samijipatipanno, is, you say, the 4 pairs, the 8 kinds of noble beings. Well, that is the supatipanno. It's not about you becoming a stream enterer. it doesn't work like that. And you can't become a stream enterer through avijja, through the self-view. Totally impossible. So there's no way that I, as a person, this is my 43rd Vassa, can become a stream enterer. But there is stream entry, and that is to be seen and recognized. It's here and now, paccuppanna dhamma. And the obstructions to stream entry is not patriarchy or hierarchy or the conventions. It's not having seen through avijja, operating from sakkaya ditthi, silabbata, paramasa, vicikicca. These are the obstructions, the fetters that blind us to the path. So this is very important to keep reminding yourself, because we get our feelings hurt or our tendency to be offended. Sometimes I think some of you are just looking for anything to be offended with. We become so precious, so involved in our own lives that we're just waiting for any opportunity to be offended by somebody. And so, the time of political correctness, where you don't say anything very straight or honest because it might offend somebody. You've got to always speak in a very polite way that is not going to cause anybody any hard feelings or misunderstandings or feeling of being offended. So that's the society we live in. It's full of this political correctness, which is, I'm not against that either, but it also makes us weak and wishy-washy. We can't be honest. We can't say things. We can't, we're always so concerned about being nice and polite and not offending anybody that we never can really get anywhere with that, trying to just live on the surface of politeness. And of course that just makes us more, because we blow up eventually. You can only be nice for so long, you can't stand it. Wouldn't it be nice if everybody was nice? Is that what we want Amaravati to be? Wouldn't it be nice if everybody here was nice? And yet that's sometimes what I think people want, just to be nice. And so this is to recognize that there's to extirpate avijja is not about, just developing a superficial sense of politeness and good manners and not saying anything but what is appropriate and inoffensive, but being able to really use this form for observing, for knowing Dhamma. And you have to, really determine to use it. It's like adhitthana barami, the sense of really determining to get to the causes of suffering. And these are clearly stated in the Second Noble Truth. Couldn't be more precisely, more usefully written down in words than the Second Noble Truth. And so it's just through investigating the Second Noble Truth, the causes of suffering. So you've got this precision tool. the monastic community here, you actually have got a precision tool. It's, it's survived 2,552 years. You've been given the permission to use this tool by the Sangha. So it's not just, you trying to figure it out all on your own anymore. There's this sense of Sangha behind you, supporting you. Supatipanno, ujupatipanno. Now the Sangha doesn't mean individual monks or bhikkhus. In this sense, when we take refuge in Sangha, you don't take refuge in bhikkhus or in individuals. It's not a guru form. I don't want to be a guru. I don't want you to take refuge in Ajahn Sumedho. It's a refuge in Sangha, supatipanno. So, supatipanno, one who practices in the right way, is here and now Dhamma, isn't it? When you come, during this retreat, the supatipanno is when you are aware, awake in the present, mindful here and now. Whether you're entering the temple and you're mindful of the door, opening, closing, taking shoes off, putting them on the rack. Being mindful of just these banal, kind of ordinary things that we do is supatipanno. Even though it's not, I'm supatipanno, I'm practicing in the right way, then it goes into sakkayaditthi. But see, this refuge in Sangha, Sanghang Saranang Gacchami, is not about me, Ajahn Sumedho, or you, but about when there is mindfulness, there's supatipanno, ujupatipanno. Yayapatipanno is, this is insight. This is knowing through reflecting, through seeing the causes of suffering, seeing the suffering you create in your life with avijja, with sakkayaditthi. So it's like I've always developed this whenever I suffer, when I see myself, caught in my own personal suffering. Is it, even if somebody is giving me a bad time, are they the cause of my suffering? Sometimes people will give me a bad time. Maybe they're angry with me, or they don't like me, or they resent me, so are they the cause of my suffering? And of course, I could get most people to agree that person is abusing me, is insulting me, and he is the cause of my suffering. We won't allow him to come into this monastery anymore. Tell him, never enter the door of the deathless of Amaravati. Banish him, because he causes, whenever that guy comes into this monastery, I suffer. Now am I going to believe that? And of course, on a sakkayaditthi level, I can believe it. My personality is a condition to believe that other people have been the cause of my suffering. Because sometimes that's the way it seems. Somebody is being abusive and insulting. But then, when we reflect on the noble truths, it's what? The suffering is not around what that person is saying or his abuse, but about my not wanting it, about my sakkayaditthi, my anger, my feeling of being offended, my resentment, my desire to get rid of that person, banish him, excommunicate him, Send him off to Siberia. I'm never going to speak to you again either. That will show you, won't it? If you insult me, then I'm never going to speak to you again. I got a letter the other day from somebody who thinks I'm a monster. And she said she's never going to support the Bhikkhu Sangha ever again. So, what should I do about that? So these are, this is Sakyaditi, isn't it? Now, being aware of that, it's not that we can't help, sometimes our reactions are like that. I don't want to speak to you anymore. It's like this. But the cause of suffering is clinging to that view out of ignorance. Avijja, Bhajaya Sankhara. So ignorance affects all the sankharas, all the conditions. It's avijja, as long as it is the basis of our interpretation of life, then it affects everything, Our way of thinking, our emotions, our experience of life is through avijja, and that, of course, Sakyaditi, Silabbata Paramasa Vicikicca. So, not wanting, or wanting something, wanting Amravati to be a better place, what I think it should be, an ideal monastery, a community of monks and nuns living in perfect harmony, wanting everybody to be nice to each other and support each other, wanting everybody to respect each other and be here for each other. And when it's not like that, then I suffer. When it's not, when there's disharmony in the community, because I want harmony. Is the disharmony in the community the cause of suffering, or is my wanting harmony when there's disharmony? Now this is investigating the second noble truth, the causes of suffering. Wanting it to become something that it's not at this moment is like this. Not wanting it to be disharmonious, not wanting it to be the way it is like this. And the knowing of this is Buddho Dhammo Sangho, and Buddhism Sangha. So this, like these refuges then are, really, nobody can make you take these refuges. You can say the formulas, but you still may not, you're just repeating words, operating from Sakyaditi, but this is taking these refuges and making them work for you. Bhutang Saranam Gacchami is mindfulness here and now, knowing Dhamma the way it is, practicing in the right way, with mindfulness, clarity, not from ignorance, not from greed, hatred, or delusion. So this is, this way to use these three refuges as a reminder. I find them, because I've used them for so long, but they really help to not as attachments, but as reminders. Dhamma the way it is, rather than Dhamma as some perfect ideal. or Buddha as some, perfect ideal in the universe. Or some, we can project out into the universe some kind of Buddha energy or Buddha nature. So we can create ideas and then project our ideas outward. But this is not about projecting, but awakening, recognizing, investigating, here and now. If I'm unhappy, it's because where is there attachment? So we've had endless meetings about how to, make things better and live in harmony and support each other and kalyana mittas, or being noble friends to each other and all the rest. But is this Sakya Ditti or what? Is all this necessary if we get to the cause of suffering in ourselves, not in, we can't make someone else do it, but you can do it. And that's one of my frustrations, is wanting you to do it. The desire I have for you to see the path is one of my frustrations. When you don't seem to. Because sometimes some of the things you say to me are unbelievable. You miss the point. And and I can understand personally, because I have, the whole point of this life is not towards, creating nice people, but awakened individuals. And if nice people come out of being awake, that's fine. But just trying to be nice and be harmonious and all that, trying to live an ideal life, you're going to be terribly disappointed, as many have. You've seen over the years, in the 30 years I've been in England, how many people are inspired and disillusioned with this life. Being a bhikkhu or a siladhara, they can get very inspired, and then they become very disillusioned. Because it is, the actual Buddhism is very inspiring in its forms, in its message. It's a brilliant on a Bhariyati level. It's beautiful. Intellectually, it's so pleasing, and it has a great beauty as a form. So it does attract, and it is inspiring, but also, like anything inspiring, you can't. Inspiration is not. Can't sustain itself. You can't stay that way. You have to, the encouragement of monasticism is to get down to the nitty-gritty of here and now, suffering and its causes. So I really respect those that use this teaching, really, no matter how much you suffer, instead of blaming others and whinging about everything, get to the cause of suffering. Really, and even if you are being abused, that doesn't matter. We're not here to abuse each other, but sometimes one feels abused by others. But that's not our purpose, that's not what we're here for. But sometimes, due to our karma, we can be abusive to others. But even if that happens, get to the cause of your suffering, not, the anger, resentment, that someone else's abuse might arouse in you. And so then mindfulness is being able to observe. It's not suppressing anger and trying to look like a Buddha Rupa, but it's actually embracing it. Anger's like this. Resentment. And the cause of suffering then is avijja, desire and attachment. The second noble truth. If there's avijja, then the desire arises and we attach to it, and then the result is suffering. So then, to really trace that through to where there's letting go of the causes of suffering, which is not a kind of destruction of desire, but recognizing it. It's like, really, these three kinds, Gama Dhanna, Bhava Dhanna, Vipava Dhanna, to really, get to know them. You never get rid of them. This is a desire realm. This is all about desire. The human body, it's a sexual form, isn't it? Human bodies are sexual forms. They're all about desire. We wouldn't be here if our parents didn't have any desires. So that's the nature of this realm. The sense realm is about attraction and aversion, and wanting the happiness, wanting beauty, wanting friendship, wanting respect, wanting truth, not wanting life to be miserable and suffering and painful. Wanting to get rid of the ugly and wanting to hold on to beauty is the sense experience. This is what sensitivity is. And senses are based on this, these polarized conditions. So, and then the awareness of that transcends the condition. In this verse of Swinburne's that I like, and William James, I was wrong, he was an American philosopher and psychologist. Not English. So years ago when I came across this verse, I was at this Tam Sangpat, this place in Amnatchala in northeast Thailand. And I lived in this kuti, which was built in a cave. I was very fond of this. It was like it wasn't a real cave, it was more like a ledge. And they built this kuti, and it had this walking path in this cave where there were bats in the crevices of this cave. And I used to practice Jongrom walking on this platform above the ground, and underneath there was, who knows what, snakes and whatnot, but then there were bats in the crevices, so you walk over and look in, and then you take your torch and shine it up, and all these bats would start making sounds, like disturbing them. And I got used to living with the smell of bat guano. The place stank of bat shit. And so we used to call it the bat shit cave, the vulgar way of expressing it. But I became very fond of this place. And then I would stand there and looking, and it was on a hill, so you could look out over the plain, because Tamsangpat is a hill, and then below it is this very flat plain below. So look over this flat plain into the horizon, and then I'd say, "Here begins the sea that ends not till the world ends." And then I'd think, this point here, and me standing in this, looking out over this plain. Here begins. This is it. And from this point on, the sea that ends not till the world ends. Where we stand, can we know the next high sea mark set beyond these waves that gleam? We should know what never man hath known, nor eye of man hath scanned. But here man's heart leaps with venturous glee from the shore that hath no shore beyond it set in all the sea. So this is like yearning towards the gloom. When you're at this point of awareness, out there is the unknown, isn't it? Everything is so vast when you're just in the state of here and now awareness. You're not defining anything. You're not looking at the next wave or the next thing. It's like a sea that extends to infinity. And here begins this point, here and now. And then the attitude of yearning, but here man's heart leaps. And you really fix yourself in that point, and then it's not just a kind of passive, but it's this sense of fully embracing the totality, the oneness, yearning towards the gloom, because out this word gloom, with venturous glee rather than with fear, and turning back into the cave and locking myself up in it, because the gloom out there frightens me too much. It's too vast, too mysterious. And so this awakening is like really waking up to the universe, the totality of it. Not just me and my position and whether I'm really respected or liked or loved or not or whatever. It's even free from that silliness that creates so much suffering. So even the gloom, the unknown, the mystery of the whole universe is no longer frightening. It's yearning towards the gloom with venturous glee. This is poetic. This is Swinburne. He talks like this. but just contemplate that. It's a very beautiful insight to see that this life isn't about just binding yourself down, keeping rules, and killing off your ego. It's liberating yourself from suffering, from the restriction. You don't have to disrobe to be free from, within this form, the monastic form, you find your liberation, not through the forms. Forms are restricting. Your physical bodies are restriction. We're restricted and bound and incarcerated in these clumsy old forms. And all they do is get old. They don't get better and better as you get older and older. But it's no longer, this is not the problem, the restriction through form, but liberation through the mind, through the heart. So it's being able to face life with adventurous glee, with joy, with awareness, not through the terrible restrictions of Sakkaya Ditthi. It's painful, it's dukkha to be so limited and obsessed and blinded by this sense of me and mine, myself. So in the Sangha, like this is what the Sangha is about. The conventional monastic Sangha. This is what you're invited to participate in. Not to bind you to rules and hierarchical structures, but to invite you toward liberation. This is what I'm interested in, is liberation, not in trying to make perfect conditions for everybody. Now, whether you're liberated or not, that's up to you. You can't. You can't make somebody else liberated. But the intention is to keep pointing at it. No matter how many times one gets lost and forgets, then we keep pointing to here and now, Paccuppanna Dhamma, Buddha Dhamma Sangha, using the Four Noble Truths to see through the illusions of self, and to see the causes of suffering, and to be able to, once you see the causes, you can let go of the causes. But you can never, if you don't see the causes, you can never let go of suffering. You're going to suffer no matter what, monk or nun or whatever, lay person, Christian, Buddhist, you're bound to suffering through ignorance. And ignorance is the cause of suffering. So, offering this as a reflection, encouragement to contemplate, recognize what we're doing here, what the point of it is, what its purpose is. So that, we do need encouragement and inspiration. But also, we also need to bring our attention to our own feelings, not through believing them, but through recognizing all conditions are impermanent.